All right, let's dive into one of the all-time great stories from Boccaccio's 14th century masterpiece, the Decameron. It's this fantastic tale of wit, wisdom, and, believe it or not, a very, very dangerous question.
So everything in this story comes down to this single question. Now, you might hear that and think, okay, sounds like a philosophical debate, right? A theological puzzle. But as you're about to see, this was anything but a friendly chat.
You see, for the person who was asked this, a very wealthy Jewish moneylender, this question was a verbal snare. It was meticulously designed so that there was absolutely no safe answer. His entire life and fortune were hanging on what he said next.
So let's set the stage a little. Who is asking this question and, more importantly, why? Well, it all kicks off with a powerful sultan who has let's just say, a serious cash flow problem. Okay, meet Saladin. He's the Sultan of Egypt, and he's a legend in the medieval world. We're talking renowned for his valor. Even his Christian enemies respected him. But all that magnificent living and all those wars have completely drained his treasury. He is broke, and he needs a ton of money like yesterday.
So Saladin sets his sights on a man named Melchizedek. He's a Jewish moneylender in Alexandria who is not only incredibly rich, but also famously wise. Here's the catch. Melchizedek is careful with his money. He's not just going to hand it over. And Saladin, well, he doesn't want to use brute force. That would really mess with his whole chivalrous reputation. He needs a smarter way in.
And that brings us to the plan. Saladin cooks up what the text calls a colorably reasonable pretext, which is just a fancy way of saying a seemingly legitimate reason to force Melchizedek's hand. The whole idea is to use the moneylender's own words to trap him, giving Saladin the perfect excuse to seize his wealth.
This leads us right to the heart of the problem, this impossible no-win situation that Melchizedek now finds himself in.
And here it is, the trap laid bare. Just think about it. If Melchizedek says his own Jewish faith is the one true law, boom, he's directly insulted his powerful Muslim ruler. But if he praises Islam or Christianity, he's betraying his own heritage, his own people. It is a perfect lose-lose scenario. There is no right answer.
But here's the thing about Melchizedek. He isn't just rich, he's wise. He sees the trap for exactly what it is instantly. He gets it. Any direct answer, any attempt to just pick one of the three is going to lead to his complete ruin.
And this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? When pure logic offers no way out, what do you do? I mean, how do you even begin to answer a question that's specifically designed to destroy you, no matter what you say?
Well, he does it with a story. Instead of answering the question head-on, he tells a parable. This brilliant little tale that just completely reframes the entire problem.
So, Melchizedek begins his story. He tells Saladin about a great and wealthy man who owned this one ring of incredible beauty and value. Now, this ring was more than just jewelry. It was the symbol of the family heir, passed down for generations. And this man, he didn't have one son, he had 3 sons, and he loved all of them equally.
So, facing this impossible choice of which son to name as his heir, the father comes up with a very clever solution. First, he privately promises the special ring to each son. Then, he secretly finds a master craftsman and has him forge 2 perfect copies. So perfect, you couldn't tell them apart from the original. And then, on his deathbed, he calls each son in, one by one, and gives him a ring.
So what happens? After the father dies, each son comes forward holding his ring, claiming, "I'm the true heir." But because the rings are absolutely indistinguishable, the question of who actually has the real one can never be solved. The dispute, as Melchizedek says, remains pendent, unresolved to this very day.
So how in the world does this tale about rings get him off the hook? Well, Melchizedek hasn't just been telling a random story. He's been crafting his escape, line by line.
And right here, he brings it all home. He draws the parallel for Saladin. He says, just like those 3 sons with their 3 rings, the 3 great faiths, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, each believe they have the one true law from God the Father. But which one is right? Well, that question, like the question of the rings, is impossible for us mortals to judge.
And this is the crucial point. This is the genius of it. Melchizedek's refusal to answer directly is his answer. He doesn't pick one faith over the others. Instead, he basically argues that the question itself is unanswerable by human beings. It's just this incredible act of intellectual and diplomatic grace.
So how does the all-powerful Sultan react? Is he angry? Not at all. He's full of admiration. Saladin is so impressed by Melchizedek's cleverness, his excellent adroitness, that he just completely abandons the trap. He comes clean about his money problems, and Melchizedek willingly lends him what he needs. And get this, Saladin not only repays the loan in full, but he showers Melchizedek with gifts and makes him a lifelong friend and trusted advisor.
Now, this story is so much more than just a clever little anecdote. Its message has echoed through the centuries, and it carries some really profound meaning.
So why are we still talking about this story almost 700 years later? Because it works on so many levels. For one, it's a celebration of wit and intelligence triumphing over brute force. It's also this incredibly timeless and powerful argument for religious tolerance. And maybe most important of all, it teaches us that sometimes how you answer a question is way more powerful than the literal answer itself.
And Boccaccio didn't just invent this story out of thin air. Versions of it were actually floating around in the Middle Ages, but it was his telling in the Decameron that really perfected it and made it famous. Then, centuries later, in 1779, it became the central theme for the great Enlightenment play Nathan the Wise, which totally cemented its place in the history of Western thought.
And that kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about. Melchizedek didn't answer with a fact. He answered with a narrative. It really makes you wonder, right? In those moments of high stakes and deep division, when is a story, with all of its nuance and empathy, actually more powerful than a simple, direct, and maybe even dangerous truth?